Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be making this super squishy plush Tunisian crochet throw blanket. This is the Blossom throw blanket available as a free pattern on my website, and let's get into the materials you'll need to make it. If you're new to Tunisian crochet, this is a great introductory project. You get a lot of practice with this stitch and it's a super fun way to get into a new craft. What you'll need for this blanket is some yarn. I am using the Karen Blossom Cakes in the color Tropical Bloom. For this project, I am using 4 of these cakes, and all of the yardage and everything will be available on the website where this free pattern is available as well. You're going to need some scissors for finishing off your ends and a yarn needle for those ends as well, along with an 8mm Tunisian crochet hook with a cord attached. So today I am using an interchangeable set that I have purchased from Amazon, and it is a set that has all the different sizes you would ever need of crochet hooks with a bunch of cords attached that I have here. Now that we have all of our materials, let's get started. To begin, we're going to make a slip knot. And then we are going to chain 144. If you are following the pattern, I'm going to start with my first chain, and you're going to want to do these pretty loose. And that'll just help the first row lay a lot smoother at the end. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And they should look a little something like that. And we're just going to keep doing that until you reach the total of 144 chains by the end, and I'll meet you here on that next step. So here I have my 144 chains, and next step is to start up the setup row. And if you're new to Tunisian crochet, the setup row is going to be picking up stitches in every chain across, so that you have them all on your working cord or hook or whatever you're using. So what you're going to do is, I like to work into the back loops of your chain. And so you see here, this is the front view of it, and it's these little V's as they go down. And so what I like to do is just flip those over, and then you have more of these little lumps and bumps on the back. And I like to work on those just to give it a more clean edge at the end. So what we're going to do is we're going to skip this first chain because this loop on our hook counts as that first stitch, and then we're going to go into that next one. So just go under that bump, just like so. Now you should have 2 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over, and you're going to pull that yarn through that loop you just went through. And now you have 2, and you're just going to stop there. So at this step, you have successfully gone through your first stitch and pulled up your first stitch. So we have that first chain that we skipped, and that's accounted for by this loop, the second chain that we went into, and that is the second loop here. So you're just going to continue that all the way down your chain. And this part is rather tedious and can take a while, but it is definitely worth it in the end. So let's go into that next chain space. So again, we're working on the back, so it should have this little lump, loop, whatever you want to call it, right at that back. So I'm going to insert my hook underneath. And this is why it's important to have a looser chain, because it helps you get into these bumps on the back way easier. So you're going under that bump, yarning over, and pulling a loop through that same space there. So now we have successfully created 3 stitches on our hook, and you'll just want to keep doing that. So we'll go to the next one here, and I'm going right into that space on the back of the chain, under that bump, yarning over and pulling up a loop, just like so. So now I have 4 stitches, and you can see, if you turn your work, you can see those V's of that original chain. They will stay intact as you go into those back bumps of the chain, of the original chain. So let's do that a couple more times. So we're going to go into underneath that back bump, yarn over, pull up a loop, and leave the loop on your hook. And the next one, go under that bump, yarn over, and pull your loop through. And there we go. So this is now 6 stitches. And the easiest way to count for Tunisian is just how many loops you have on your hook matches the amount of stitches that you are working into. So by the end of this step, the setup row, you should have the exact same number of stitches on your hook, live on your hook, as you did in your original chain. So it's not like traditional crochet where you lose 1 or 2 from your chain as you work your stitches. It should be the exact amount. So I'm just going to continue the same step of inserting my hook under that back bump there, yarning over and pulling up a loop. And you'll just work that all the way down, going under that back bump, yarning over, pulling up a loop, under that back bump, yarning over and pulling up a loop. And so now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 stitches on my hook, and I'm going to keep going all the way down to the end. So I should have 144 stitches on my hook by the end, and I will meet you back right here. Okay, so here I am at the end of my chains. I've done almost all of them and just have them live on my hook here. So next I'm going to go into these last 3 and just going under that back bump, yarning over, pulling up a loop. There we go. Going under that back bump, yarning over, pulling up a loop. And then on this last one, same thing, which this stitch in particular can get a little tight with this slip knot there, so just be careful of that. And I'm going under that back bump, yarning over, and pulling up my loop here. So there we go. We have all of our stitches on our crochet hook, on our cord, and we're ready for the next step. So this is the finished setup row. Almost every Tunisian crochet stitch that I've come across starts in this way. For the second row, we're going to start with a chain 1. So just yarn over and pull through that first loop for a chain 1. And now we're going to yarn over and pull through 2 loops on our hook. And yarn over and pull through 2 loops on our hook. So this is finishing off our stitches from our hook and creating these nice vertical bars. So we're going to do yarning over, pulling through 2 loops all the way down until you get to the end of the row. So that's yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 loops. You're just going to keep doing that all the way down. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through the next 2. Just over and over throughout the rest of your project. And as you're pulling it through, you'll see that your work starts to look like this, and you can stretch it out a little bit. And there should be all these vertical bars where your stitches are. So it should match up with the amount of stitches on your hook, and that is what it should be looking like at this stage. So just keep that up, and we will meet back up towards the end of the row to see how to finish it up. So that's yarning over, pulling through 2, yarning over, pulling through 2, all the way down to the end. So here we are, and we have 5 stitches left on our hook. So I'm going to continue the yarning over and pulling through 2 loops to the end. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. And then for this final stitch, you're going to do the exact same thing, yarning over and pulling through both of those loops. So now you have 1. So this is your first row complete. That row that we just did is called the return pass, and the setup row and return pass together count as 1. So for you can think of it as every 1 row, it's really 2 steps going first right to left and then left to right. And that is typical with Tunisian crochet, especially for the Tunisian simple stitch. So you will see that all along your project, if you spread it out a little bit, there are these big gaps between all of these vertical bars. And what we're going to be doing for the next row is working into the vertical bars and not through the gaps like you might think to do in traditional crocheting. So what we're going to do for that first row, there's no need to chain 1 at this end. And you're going to have just 1 loop on your hook, and we're going to insert our hook under this first vertical bar. So you're going to go under just one leg of that stitch. So under that first one there, and you're going to yarn over and pull up a loop. And you're going to leave it on your hook just like we did for that first half of the first row. And so taking a closer look, if we spread that out more, there are 2 bars to every stitch. So there's this back bar here, right in there, and this front one, which we can see facing us. So we are just going under that front one. So you're inserting your hook between, you can think of it as between those 2 bars, yarning over and pulling up a loop. And there we go. And so you can see how that those gaps get filled in as you work down this stage. And I have 1, 2, 3 stitches on my hook at this point, and that's going to remain the same for counting. So you're going to insert under just that first vertical bar, yarn over, and pull up a loop, just like that. So now you have 4 stitches, and you're going to continue that all the way down the work. So we're going to insert our hook under that vertical bar there, yarn over, and pull up a loop, just like that. And keep doing that. So we're going to insert our hook under that vertical bar, yarn over, and pull up a loop. Insert your hook in the vertical bar, yarn over, and pull up a loop, just like that. And there we go. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 stitches on our hook. And we're going to continue doing that same thing, picking up stitches all the way to the end, and I'll show you how to do the edge. So here I am at the end of my row. I have 4 stitches left, so we're just going to do those last 3 in the normal way. So going under that vertical bar, yarning over, pulling up a loop, under that vertical bar, yarning over, pulling up a loop, and the last one just like that, under the vertical bar, yarning over, and pulling up that loop. So this next stitch is going to be a little different here. We're going to work into 2 bars rather than 1 on this side to get a nice clean edge. So what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to turn the side towards you, and so you see this little X sort of shape, so that's 1, 2 for the X, and you're going to want to insert your hook under both of those bars on the side, just like that. So you should have 2 different ones for that edge, and you're going to yarn over and pull through both of those, just like that. And so it should look like that on the side, kind of like a V, an X, and you'll have another stitch on your hook. And that is the end of the first half of your second row. So now we're going to do the same return pass as previously with the yarn over, chain 1 at the start, and then yarning over and pulling through 2 loops. So that is going to be just the same, yarning over and pull through 2 loops, yarning over and pull through 2 loops for the entire return pass once again. And you can see now how we're working on building that second row. So at the completion of this return pass, we'll have 2 rows, and you can tell that by counting these little kind of basket weave looking vertical bars here. So that will be 1 and 2. And that is how it should be looking. And here's our side, and it's going to look like some chain stitches all the way up the edge. And we're just going to keep going all the way to the end with that return pass. So that's yarning over, pulling through 2 loops, yarning over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops again. And we're going to do that all the way back down to the other end of our blanket. Here I am at the end of this row. I have a couple stitches left, and I'm going to continue that same yarning over and pull through 2 all the way to the end. And here is what you should be seeing. So this is the completion of our second row, and in Tunisian crochet, it's very common to see this kind of curling that's happening already, where it's just kind of wanted to curl up on itself, and that's typically due to the tension. It's very normal for Tunisian crochet. I like to try and keep my project and my tension very loose when I'm Tunisian crocheting, and again, that's why I recommend having a larger hook than recommended on whatever yarn you're using, just so it makes it have that like drapiness, that really soft, nice fabric to it. And now we're going to start our third row, and every row after this, besides the last row, will be the exact same repeat of the previous ones. So what we're going to do for this one is, once again, we have one loop on our hook, and we're going to go into the second vertical bar and pull up a loop. So we're going to go under that bar, yarn over, and pull up a loop. Just like that. And so the edge on this side of the project is having those nice V's as well as the other edge. So we're gonna just pick up stitches for the rest of this row, just like before, going under those vertical bars, yarning over, pulling up a loop, inserting under that vertical bar, yarning over, and pulling up a loop. And this will, again, be the same repeat for the rest of the blanket except for that last finishing row. So I'm going to keep going all the way down to the next end, and we will do our return pass together once again. Okay, so here we are at our end once again. So I'm going to just finish up these last 2 stitches, and then we're going to do our edge stitch. So I'm turning it to the side and making sure that I am going to go under both of those loops on the side there, just like that. So we go right between this V here and underneath both sidebars, and yarning over and pulling up that loop just like so. And then this is going to be the start of our return pass once again. So chain 1 and then yarn over and pull through 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2 loops, yarn over and pull through 2 loops. And that's going to be the same repeat all the way down the project, and I will meet you back at the other end. So here we are at the end of the row, and I'm just going to yarn over and pull through 2 all the way to that last stitch. And so you're just going to repeat that 2-row repeat throughout the whole project, and this is the completion of 3 total rows. Again, a great way to count that is each stacked vertical bar here. So that's 1, 2, and 3. And you'll complete that for the total number of rows for this blanket. Going to be 163 rows total for the blanket, or 31 inches. If you get way past 31 inches and you have less than 163 rows for this pattern, you're going to want to do either length or row gauge, depending on if your gauge matches mine. And if you want more information about that, the written pattern is available on my blog for free, and that will be linked down in the description and can be found at mccdesignz.com. I'm just going to continue that, and I'm going to meet you here right before our last row, which would be row 164, and we will do that row together, and that'll be the finishing of our blanket. So here is my blanket all finished up to the 163rd row, and now we're going to do the finishing row on our blankets. So to start, you're going to have done that return pass and completely completed row 163. So for your 164th row, or the row that you got to at 31 inches of your blanket, we are going to do the finishing row. So on this one, we are not grabbing the loops to stay on our hook. We are instead going to be chaining them off. So to start with, we're going to insert our hook under that first vertical bar, yarning over, and you're going to pull a loop up, and then you're going to pull it through the other loop on your hook. Just like that. So we have finished that first stitch off. Now doing that again, you're going to insert your hook under the next vertical bar, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then pull that loop through the other loop on your hook, just like that. So that is creating this nice finished V's on the edge here, and we can see that's finishing off those stitches. So we're going to do that one more time, and if you're familiar with knitting, it's very similar to casting your stitches off. So we're going to insert under that vertical bar, yarn over, pull up a loop, and pull through that other loop. And you're just going to keep doing that all the way down your blanket edge. So insert your hook under the bar, yarn over, pull up a loop, and then pull it through that other loop on your hook, just like so. So you're not keeping them on like the other rows, you're finishing them off. So yarn over, pull up a loop, and pull that loop through the other loop, just like that. And so this is what it should be looking like at this stage. You should have that nice clean edge with doing that. And here we have our blanket. Continuing on, we're gonna insert under that vertical bar, pull up a loop, and pull that loop through the other one on our hook. You're gonna do this all the way down to the other end of the work, and I will meet you there. So this is now the last couple stitches of this blanket. So insert your hook under that vertical bar, yarn over, pull up a loop, and pull through the other loop. Insert your hook under the vertical bar, yarn over, pull up a loop, and pull through that last loop. And so for this corner stitch, we're going to do the same thing as the rows previous, and we're going to turn it towards us and make sure we're going in between the stitches and under both bars on the end. And we're going to pull up a loop and pull through that last loop. And now to secure this corner stitch, we're going to chain one. We're going to snip our yarn and pull that loop all the way through to the end. And that just secures it in place. And that is your almost finished blanket. Now you just have to weave in or sew in any of your loose tails that you have added throughout the project. I will show you how to do that with this one, and then you can repeat a similar style to weave in the ends throughout the rest of your project if you used more than one skein of yarn. To take my yarn needle and thread my yarn onto it, just like that. And I like to flip the project over and work into these back ridges here, just because since with Tunisian crochet there is definitely a front of your work and a back, just to have those ends on the back. So what I like to do is go down a little ways into some of these bigger loops. So I'm going to just work my yarn needle through there. And I'm going to go on the inside of all of these loops. So I'm going to go through that one and the next one and the next one. And there are many ways to weave in your ends. It's just up to your personal preference, what you found to work best. This is my preference, and you definitely do not have to do it the exact same way. So I've gone through in one direction, and then I'm going to go through the opposite direction of those same loops and just kind of twist the yarn into itself and pull through all those stitches just like that, and then pull it and stretch it out a little more. And I usually try and make the yarn go in 3 different directions. I find that it comes out less if you put it 3 directions because the fabric is less likely to be pulled in 3 different ones at the same time. So that is what I try to do. So I'm going to just go back through those same stitches, just changing up the method of stitching through them, just like that, and stretching it out to make sure it's nice and secure. And for me, I think that will do just fine. I'm not intending for this to have a ton of wear, so I'm okay with it being that way. And now I'm just going to snip off the rest of that in there. And I do leave like a tiny bit of a tail just so it can like work itself in there. But that is my completed blossom throw blanket. I do have curling on either end. So here is some curling at the top end and the same is on the bottom. What I like to do for this is to either steam it with a garment steamer in hot water. If it's an acrylic base yarn, that typically works best, which this is an acrylic cotton blend if you're using this one. So I would steam it or either wash it and then lay it flat as it's still damp or still wet completely, and that seems to go away on its own. If it's really bothering you and you really don't want to have to deal with washing it a particular way or steaming it or anything, you can add a border, like a single crochet, double crochet, any kind of border, and that can help to let it lay flat. I've had several Tunisian blankets like this that have curled a lot while using them or while making them, and washing them and just using them seems to make those stitches relax a lot and it not curl anymore. But that is the completed Blossom Throw Blanket. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and I hope to see your own creations. Feel free to use the hashtag Crochet Blossom Throw or MCC Designs on any platform, and we can all share our blankets together. If you like this tutorial and would like to see more, don't forget to like and subscribe down below, and you can find me on all social media platforms at MCC Designs. Thank you so much for joining me today during this tutorial, and I hope to see you again soon.